The air crackles with heat, a relentless reminder of the rising temperatures that grip our planet. According to NASA, the past decade has been the warmest on record, with 2016 and 2020 tied as the hottest years ever documented. The once predictable seasons have become erratic, with heat waves stretching longer and becoming more intense. Trees, once vibrant and alive, stand as charred skeletons against a smoky sky. The forests, which were once lush and teeming with life, now resemble graveyards, their silence a stark contrast to the vibrant ecosystems they once supported. A study by the National Interagency Fire Centre reports that wildfires have increased in frequency and intensity, burning millions of acres each year. Wildfires rage across continents, fueled by drought and rising temperatures. These infernos consume everything in their path, leaving behind a trail of destruction and a landscape forever altered. The World Meteorological Organization notes that climate change has doubled the number of extreme fire weather days since 1980. This is not a scene from a dystopian film, it is the reality of climate change unfolding before our eyes. The juxtaposition of fire and flood highlights the extreme weather patterns that have become all too common. The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, IPCC, reports that these extreme events are likely to become more frequent and severe. Across the globe, another disaster unfolds. From the parched lands of Australia to the hurricane-battered coasts of the United States, no region is spared from the wrath of a changing climate. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA, states that the number of billion-dollar weather disasters has increased significantly over the past few decades. Torrential rains, intensified by a warmer atmosphere, inundate cities and villages. These deluges overwhelm infrastructure, turning streets into rivers and displacing thousands of people from their homes. A report by the United Nations Office for Disaster Risk Reduction highlights that flooding is the most common natural disaster, affecting millions annually. Homes are swept away by raging floodwaters, leaving trails of devastation in their wake. The aftermath is a haunting reminder of the power of nature and the vulnerability of human settlements. The World Bank estimates that climate change could push an additional 100 million people into poverty by 2030 due to such extreme weather events. These are not isolated incidents. They are the new normal in a world grappling with the consequences of a changing climate. The frequency and intensity of these events are increasing, challenging our ability to respond and adapt. The IPCC warns that without significant mitigation efforts, these trends will continue to worsen. These catastrophic events are a stark reminder of the urgent crisis facing our planet. Communities are left to pick up the pieces, often with limited resources and support. The Global Humanitarian Overview 2021 by the United Nations predicts that climate-related disasters will displace millions more in the coming years. Climate change is no longer a distant threat. It is here, it is now, and its impacts are felt by every living being on Earth. From the smallest insects to the largest mammals, no species is immune to its effects. The International Union for Conservation of Nature, IUCN, reports that climate change is now the greatest threat to natural World Heritage sites. The time for complacency is long gone. We must act now to avert the worst consequences of this global challenge. Activists, scientists, and concerned citizens are raising their voices, demanding immediate and sustained action. The Paris Agreement aims to limit global warming to well below 2 degrees Celsius, but achieving this requires unprecedented global cooperation. From the melting ice caps to the acidifying oceans, the evidence of climate change is overwhelming. The polar regions are warming at an alarming rate, and the oceans are absorbing more carbon dioxide, leading to widespread ecological disruption. The National Snow and Ice Data Center reports that Arctic sea ice is declining at a rate of 13.1% per decade. The scientific community has spoken with unwavering clarity. Human activities are driving this crisis, and only through swift and decisive action can we hope to secure a livable future for generations to come. The data is irrefutable, and the call to action is clear. The IPCC's 6th assessment report underscores the urgent need for immediate and deep emissions reductions. The choice is ours to make. We stand at a crossroads with the power to shape the future of our planet. Will we continue on a path of destruction, or will we choose to protect and preserve the Earth for future generations? The decisions we make today will determine the legacy we leave behind. Our planet is warming at an alarming rate, a phenomenon unseen in human history. The rapid increase in global temperatures is not just a statistic, it is a reality that affects every aspect of our lives. Since the late 19th century, the Earth's average temperature has risen by approximately 1 degree Celsius, or 1.8 degrees Fahrenheit. This rise, though seemingly small, has far-reaching consequences. This may seem like a small change, but it has profound implications for the delicate balance of our planet's climate system. The melting of polar ice caps, for instance, is a direct result of this warming. To understand the scale of this warming, we must look back over millennia. By studying ancient ice cores and other natural records, scientists can piece together a comprehensive history of Earth's climate. Scientists have reconstructed Earth's temperature history using ice cores, tree rings, and other natural records. These methods provide invaluable insights into how our climate has changed over thousands of years. These records reveal that the current warming trend is unprecedented in the past 10,000 years, a period encompassing all of human civilization. Never before have we seen such rapid and sustained increases in temperature. The primary driver of this rapid warming is the burning of fossil fuels, coal, oil, and gas. According to a 2019 study by the Global Carbon Project, fossil fuel emissions reached a record high of 36.8 billion tons of CO2. These fuels have powered our industries and fueled our economies for centuries, but their use comes at a steep price. The carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases released from burning fossil fuels are the main culprits behind global warming. When burned, fossil fuels release massive amounts of greenhouse gases into the atmosphere, trapping heat and driving up global temperatures. This greenhouse effect is the primary cause of the warming we are experiencing today. The consequences of this warming are already being felt around the world. Sea levels are rising, ice caps are melting, and coastal communities are facing unprecedented challenges. A 2018 study published in Nature Communications estimates that rising sea levels could displace up to 187 million people by 2100. And extreme weather events are becoming more frequent and intense. Hurricanes, wildfires, and other natural disasters are occurring with greater regularity and severity, putting lives and livelihoods at risk. The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, IPCC, reports that the frequency of extreme weather events has increased significantly since the 1950s. These impacts will only worsen if we fail to curb our emissions and transition to a cleaner, more sustainable energy future. Renewable energy sources like solar and wind power offer a viable path forward, but we must act swiftly and decisively. According to the International Renewable Energy Agency, IRENA, renewable energy could supply 86% of global power demand by 2050 if we take immediate action. Our atmosphere acts like a blanket, trapping some of the sun's heat and keeping our planet habitable. This protective layer is composed of a mixture of gases that work together to maintain the Earth's temperature within a range that supports life. This natural process is regulated by a delicate balance of gases, including carbon dioxide, methane, and nitrous oxide, known as greenhouse gases. According to the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, IPCC, these gases are crucial in maintaining the Earth's energy balance by absorbing and emitting radiation within the thermal infrared range. These gases allow sunlight to pass through, but absorb some of the outgoing heat, preventing it from escaping back into space. This phenomenon, known as the greenhouse effect, is essential for keeping our planet warm enough to sustain life. Studies show that without the greenhouse effect, the Earth's average temperature would be about -18 degrees Celsius, 0 degrees Fahrenheit. However, human activities, particularly the burning of fossil fuels, have significantly increased the concentration of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. This increase disrupts the natural balance and enhances the greenhouse effect, leading to global warming. The IPCC reports that human activities have raised atmospheric CO2 levels by about 45% since the pre-industrial era. Carbon dioxide, the most prevalent greenhouse gas, has reached levels not seen in millions of years. This dramatic rise is primarily due to the combustion of fossil fuels for energy and transportation, as well as deforestation and other land use changes. According to NOAA, the global average atmospheric CO2 concentration in 2021 was 414.72 parts per million, ppm. This increase is directly linked to the burning of coal, oil and gas for electricity, transportation and industry. These activities release vast amounts of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, contributing to the enhanced greenhouse effect. The US Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, states that fossil fuel combustion accounted for 74% of US greenhouse gas emissions in 2019. Methane, another potent greenhouse gas, is released from agricultural activities, livestock digestion, and natural gas leaks. Although methane is present in smaller quantities than carbon dioxide, it is much more effective at trapping heat in the atmosphere. The IPCC notes that methane has a global warming potential, GWP, of 2836 over 100 years. Nitrous oxide, primarily emitted from agricultural fertilizers, also contributes to the warming effect. This gas is released during soil cultivation practices, especially the use of commercial and organic fertilizers. According to the EPA, nitrous oxide has a GWP of 298 over 100 years. These gases, though present in smaller quantities than carbon dioxide, have a much higher heat-trapping potential, further exacerbating climate change. Methane, for instance, is over 25 times more effective than carbon dioxide at trapping heat over a 100-year period, while nitrous oxide is nearly 300 times more effective. The consequences of this atmospheric imbalance are far-reaching. The increased concentration of greenhouse gases leads to a rise in global temperatures, which in turn causes glaciers to melt, sea levels to rise, and the frequency and intensity of wildfires to increase. The National Aeronautics and Space Administration, NASA, reports that global temperatures have increased by about 1.18 degrees Celsius, 2.12 degrees Fahrenheit, since the late 19th century. As greenhouse gas concentrations rise, the Earth's temperature increases, leading to a cascade of impacts on our climate system, including sea level rise, extreme weather events, and ocean acidification. These changes threaten ecosystems, human health, and economies worldwide. The IPCC projects that sea levels could rise by 0.3 to 1.2 meters by 2100. Reducing our reliance on fossil fuels and transitioning to renewable energy sources is paramount to mitigating these risks. By adopting cleaner energy solutions such as solar, wind, and electric vehicles, we can significantly reduce greenhouse gas emissions and help stabilize the climate. The International Renewable Energy Agency, IRENA, estimates that renewable energy could supply 86% of global power demand by 2050. Section 4. The disappearing ice. A harbinger of change. The icy realms of our planet, once considered eternal and unchanging, are now melting at an alarming rate, sounding a stark warning about the consequences of climate change. According to NASA, the Arctic sea ice minimum has declined by 13.1% per decade since 1979. The Arctic, home to polar bears, walruses and other iconic species, is warming twice as fast as the global average, causing sea ice to disappear at an unprecedented pace. A study published in Nature Communications indicates that Arctic sea ice could vanish completely during summer by 2040. This melting ice has profound implications for both wildlife and human communities. The World Wildlife Fund reports that polar bear populations could decline by 30% by 2050 due to habitat loss. As sea ice diminishes, polar bears, which rely on ice platforms for hunting seals, are losing their hunting grounds and face an uncertain future. Research from the University of Alberta shows that polar bears are traveling greater distances to find food, leading to increased energy expenditure and lower survival rates. Coastal communities in the Arctic, already grappling with erosion and flooding, are increasingly vulnerable as sea levels rise. The US Geological Survey highlights that some Alaskan villages are being forced to relocate due to severe erosion. The Greenland ice sheet, the second largest ice body in the world after Antarctica, is also losing ice at an accelerating rate. Data from the European Space Agency's Cryosat mission reveals that Greenland is losing approximately 270 billion tons of ice per year. The melting of this massive ice sheet contributes significantly to global sea level rise, threatening coastal cities and low-lying islands around the world. The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, IPCC, projects that global sea levels could rise by up to 1 metre by 2100 if current trends continue. The disappearance of glaciers in mountainous regions further exacerbates the problem. A study in the journal Nature Climate Change estimates that half of the world's mountain glaciers could disappear by 2100. These glaciers act as natural reservoirs, providing fresh water for millions of people downstream. The International Centre for Integrated Mountain Development reports that over 1.9 billion people rely on glacier-fed rivers for drinking water, agriculture and hydropower. As glaciers shrink and disappear, water scarcity and drought become increasingly likely, posing significant challenges for agriculture, drinking water supplies and human livelihoods. The Food and Agriculture Organization warns that reduced glacier meltwater could lead to a 20% decrease in crop yields in some regions by 2050. Section 5. When weather turns extreme. Climate change is not just about gradual warming, it is also fueling more frequent and intense extreme weather events. According to a 2021 report by the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, IPCC, the frequency of extreme weather events has increased significantly over the past few decades. Hurricanes are becoming more powerful, fueled by warmer ocean temperatures that provide the energy for these destructive storms. A study published in Nature in 2020 found that the proportion of Category 4 and 5 hurricanes has increased since 1980. Heat waves are becoming more common and severe, posing significant risks to human health, particularly in urban areas. Research from the World Health Organization indicates that heat waves have caused tens of thousands of deaths globally in recent years. Droughts are becoming more prolonged and widespread, leading to crop failures, water shortages, and increased wildfire risk. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA, reports that droughts in the western United States have become more severe and persistent. The American West, for example, is experiencing its worst drought in over 1,200 years, pushing water resources to their limits and increasing the frequency and intensity of wildfires. This is supported by a 2022 study published in the journal Science. Flooding, on the other hand, is becoming more frequent and severe in some regions due to increased rainfall and rising sea levels. The IPCC's 2019 special report on the ocean and cryosphere highlights the growing risk of coastal flooding. Coastal areas are particularly vulnerable to flooding, as are communities located near rivers and streams that are prone to overflowing. A study by the Union of Concerned Scientists projects that by 2045, over 300,000 coastal homes in the US will be at risk of chronic flooding. These extreme weather events have devastating consequences for human societies, causing loss of life, property damage, economic disruption, and displacement of communities. The World Bank estimates that climate change could push over 100 million people into poverty by 2030. As climate change continues to worsen, these events are projected to become even more frequent and severe, underscoring the urgent need for climate action. The IPCC's sixth assessment report emphasizes the critical need for immediate and substantial reductions in greenhouse gas emissions.